innovation we have, and today I'm very glad because we are sharing one of the innovation we have that have developed for the benefits of the patient. And this innovation is related to one of the important tissue. Am I audible? I think yeah. This innovation is related to one of the important key tissue of the body. Okay, and this tissue actually forms almost 70% of our weight lean body mass, and that tissue is nothing but muscles. Okay, so as you all know, muscles are extremely important and they play a various role not only in having mobility, movements, or the balance of the body, but also has a functional role to play in various diseases or various conditions. Now, with this importance of this tissue, actually what happened in Indian scenario, if you really see our childhood, all of us are almost the same age. Our childhood actually goes in a little bit of exposure, the less exposure for the outdoor games. Then our diet is mainly a carb predominant diet. We become young, we don't play much, we don't exercise much. But still, when we get into our professions are also now more predominantly a sitting or the sedentary professions, and this has a toll on the muscles. This definitely has a toll in the muscles, and definitely that's why actually, if you really see, in India, genetically we have poor muscles. On the top of it, we don't have an active lifestyle right from the childhood, and then there is our carb predominant diet, carbohydrate predominant diet, and the protein deficiency diet leads to a condition where actually we Indians have very poor muscle mass. So right from the beginning we have poor muscle mass and we don't develop it, and that's why when we aged up or the Indians age up, the loss of muscle mass starts very early compared to the Western world. On the lighter note, you can really see the difference between me and Paul. So actually he's very senior to me, but you can see the difference in the physical attributes. So that's what actually we Indians are. So what we do here is how to address this. Is we have various tools in our hand. We can definitely we can have more active lifestyle. We can incorporate exercise in our daily life. We can increase our proteins. Okay, there is a protein deficiency because if you really see, the muscles are the dynamic tissue of the body where on one side they preserve proteins, but when there is a protein deficiency, they also supply proteins to the body. Okay, and this actually delicate balance is maintained when you are youth, but when you become age, the balance is tilted towards the protein loss or the muscle loss. So to address this, we definitely have a tool. We can be more active. We can incorporate exercise in our lifestyle. We can have proteins in our body. We can increase our protein intake, but with our diet and with our kind of culture, predominantly a vegan culture or the vegetarian culture, how much you can increase protein in our diet is definitely in the question mark. On the top of it, whether just increasing the protein will be helpful, whether we require essential amino acids or the different approach to build the muscle mass, and that's why here comes the innovation at hand. This innovation helps the protein in turn, it helps the muscle mass to build and also function normally. This innovation is HMB, hydroxymethylbutyrate, and this is a molecule which actually is developed from an essential amino acid called as leucine, and it definitely has an impact on the muscle in terms of building the muscles, building the muscle strength, and ultimately having an impact on the healthy lifestyle and other attributes. To know more about this molecule, we have Paul and Dr. Jayashree here, and I request Paul to take us through this molecule, its mechanism, its evidence, and how it will benefit all of us to have a healthy life and to live our life to the fullest. Yeah.
So thank you, and it's wonderful to be here. I'm really honored to be here, and before I came to India, I wanted to try to learn as much as I could about India and about some of the issues that may face Indians in everyday life in leading the healthiest and happiest lives they can, because that is truly my passion, trying to help people around the world use nutrition and exercise and simple things to help them lead better lives. And one of the things I learned, if I could have my slides just for a moment, was pretty striking. My wife has lived outside of Chennai for many months doing yoga, and so knows a lot about India. And one of the things she taught me and that she learned while she was here is that 7 out of 10 people in India suffer from poor muscle health, from low muscle mass, from muscle weakness. I was really struck. These were the biggest numbers I've ever seen anywhere in the world that I've gone. And so I realized I think it's important that I come and talk about something that I really care about and I found helps many of my friends and patients and colleagues. And I learned some more. I read about some of the research that's been done in India, and 71% of Indians actually have low muscle mass and low protein in their body likely because of intake, and also because of diet, but a range of different things. And this is not just in older people, right? We know that as we age, we lose muscle mass, as we'll talk about, but young people, and I'm actually older than this group, I'm in my 50s, but even younger people in their 30s have significantly low muscle mass when it's measured. And this is from a study of thousands of Indians in many, many cities, as I'll show you. So this is a wide group of people in India, young people, including in Chennai. And interestingly, working professionals, people who perhaps are more educated even, who should know more about perhaps diet and exercise, seem to have worse muscle mass than those who aren't professionals. And again, this leads to all kinds of challenges, impaired muscle function, weakness, all kinds of challenges in everyday life, back aches, inability to play with your kids in the yard or hold your grandchildren again or walk down the street with the people you love in the way you'd like to. And these are the kinds of everyday things that we found people with low muscle mass can't do. And they looked at all the different cities this large study did in India, and they found even in Chennai and many, many other cities, again, there was very low muscle mass in almost all of the people from India they tested, especially relative to others, but in general, what we use as cutoffs for low muscle mass and the risk of all kinds of things later in life, like illness. So why is this? And so I read some about what the Indian Dietetic Association, the people that study the diets of people in India across the country, they found that 84% of vegan diets are deficient in protein, which may not surprise you. It is something I think that we can work on, but actually almost 2/3, 2 out of every 3 people who eat a non-veg diet actually are protein deficient. So this is a wide variety. Almost all people across India are having these challenges no matter which diet they eat. And what they found is when they did surveys, these dietetic associations, they found that about 93% of the population didn't realize there were simple things they could do, simple things they could learn that could improve in natural ways their muscle mass, their strength, their ability to live a happier, healthier life. And so what I can read, having traveled the world and seen people from all over the world, that I think here more than anywhere else that I found that this is really an emergency in India, this low muscle mass. This is creating all kinds of challenges for people every day in their lives. And it's something I think that we can address, that we've learned how to address in other places, and I think we can do better. So how can we do that? Well, I think a few things need to be said first, too. The other problem is not only are people 30 to 50 challenged by low muscle mass, but we know as we age, we lose significant amount of muscle mass every few years, especially as we get older. You can see when you get over 40, it's 8% every 10 years. It's about 1% a year, and a 15% loss every few years, every 10 years after 70. So as people get older, muscle mass loss accelerates very rapidly. So this isn't just when we're young, but it gets much worse when we're older. It isn't just mass, it's strength. And so weakness begins to happen, and then the things you want to do every day, the things people want to do every day aren't able to be done. And so really this is an emergency, and we can be better. And I think we can do better, and I'm going to talk about that, and we're all going to talk about that today. Well, I don't think that we're going to convince the non-veg and the veg folks to change their entire diets. Because there was just a paper published actually that showed that the evolution of India's diet has evolved over about 11,000 years, since India went from a hunting society about 11,000 years ago to a farming society at that time. Actually, heights decreased and muscle strength and muscle mass decreased dramatically. They've been able to look historically at research, looking at different fossils and other things. So I don't think we're going to change people's whole diets overnight. But I think there's an easier way. And we've used this in other countries and other places to do the same thing. And now it's come to India as well, this opportunity. And so can we improve India's muscle mass and strength and people's quality of life more simply? And can we do it with something called HMB? And that's what we're going to talk about. HMB is a naturally occurring substance that works with our bodies to help our bodies use protein and make muscle in a natural, healthy way. that we can benefit from, and now you can actually get in a drink here. So this is an everyday common active metabolite of different kinds of amino acids that we take in our diet anyway. It occurs naturally in things like avocados and watermelons and catfish, but you'd have to eat thousands of watermelons and hundreds of catfish at a time to get enough of this to do what it's supposed to do. It actually comes from the breakdown of other amino acids, and as we age, the amount of this really important amino acid goes down in our blood, and that's part of why we get weaker. And it's very safe. It's been studied in lots of studies. We'll talk about that. And so what this does is this works with the body naturally to help rebuild and maintain muscle so that it doesn't break down as quickly, so that people can be stronger, so that people can be healthier. It stops some of the muscle breakdown that happens naturally with aging, and it helps muscle build back up more naturally as we eat and as we exercise, or as even if we're just active every day. It allows the body to do what it's supposed to do. And again, you'd have to eat about 3,000 avocados or about 700 catfish to get enough, to get the same amount that you can get from a simple drink. And so again, no one's going to eat this much to do that, but this allows us to get a naturally occurring substance, something that's natural our body can work with every day. It's been studied in hundreds of studies. I can tell you I've been taking it since 1996 myself. That's when it became available in the US. I was encouraged to take it by athletes and other really people I looked up to that were really healthy when I was younger. You wouldn't know it, but just a few months ago I had a major abdominal operation and was in the hospital for almost 3 months. And if it wasn't for this, you wouldn't know looking at me probably, is what most people tell me, but it's because of I take supplements like this every day, and this allows me to recover and live my life actively and dance with my wife and do the things I want to do. It decreases some of the inflammation that our body sees from just aging and stress. Athletes have been taking it for many years. It was developed for athletes to gain muscle mass without gaining fat mass. Everyone's dream, right? But it actually does that. It's actually proven to do that. And it doesn't have any side effects. People have taken it for over a year. I've taken it for, almost 30 years now. And I don't think anything's gone too badly yet. So there's a lot of research, a lot of trials, like I said, over 100 trials, 30 years of research. I've been taking it for almost 30 years myself, and I know many, many people and many of my patients that take it as well. And so there's lots of research in thousands of patients. And these are just some of the examples. So this was a study of elderly women, 80 elderly women who took an H&B containing drink or a placebo basically, or a drink that didn't have H&B in it. And it looked at their strength and walking ability and other things. And one thing they found was that people that got the H&B drink, or the oral supplement, had more muscle mass, more muscle density. They had better muscle strength, even in the elderly women, very quickly. They also were able to walk faster and further. When we do a lot of tests where we have people walk for 6 minutes and we measure how far they walk. I do with lots of my patients. And this is a standard test, and the people who took this were able to walk further and longer and better. And there have been lots of studies. This is another study that looked at how strong their hand grip strength was and found their hand grip strength was better, their ability to walk further was better, their ability to be stronger, the strength of their muscles was better. So even in the quite elderly folks, this helps a lot. And then there's large groups of studies. So these are meta-analyses or reviews, or studies where they look at all the studies and they put them together to see how it helps people, and this is at muscle mass. And if you look at all the studies in many, many, many patients, again, or many, many people, these are actually our patients, these are regular people like you and me, it improves muscle strength and muscle mass. So again, this is a big issue in India, and something I've learned a lot about in the last few weeks as I've prepared to come here. And I'm really excited. That's one of the reasons I flew all the way here, was to tell you about this, because again, this is a big problem. And as people age and as people begin to not be able to do the things they want to do, this is going to become a bigger and bigger problem. And so we can do better. And so I don't think we're going to change all of India's diet after 11,000 years, in the next few months to a few years. But I do think simple things like this could be an easier way. And using H&B, this new supplement, is something we can do naturally to help people, help them improve what they need to do. And these oral drinks are now available here. And again, many of my friends and I have been taking them for many years in the US, but I think it's exciting they're finally available here. And then I think if that combined with a little exercise, people can really lead their best life here in India and really have the best opportunity to do the things they want to do, walk down the street with the people they love, and hold their kids and grandkids the way they want to do it. And with that, I'll leave you with this, and I look forward to hearing more of your questions and hear the rest of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for taking us through your presentation. It was wonderful information. Just to summarize, this is the innovation is very relevant from Indian context, especially from the muscle mass and muscle strength point of view. It has a relevance, it has a clinical evidence which shows that it actually protects the muscles, it builds the muscles as well as it protects the muscles. It actually prevents its muscle breakdown, especially in the elderly where the problem is more severe, because on one side you have protein deficiency, on the other side is a muscle breakdown. So it definitely it's important from that. But coming to the Indian context and the Indian young people, young generation point of view or the middle age point of view, I would like to ask or hear from Dr. Jayashri how it will help or it may help in Indian context, especially younger generation having a sedentary work styles and also have a bad dietary habits, and whether it will have an impact or it will help in this kind of population. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, வணக்கம். தமிழ்ல பேசலாமா இங்கிலீஷ்ல பேசவா? சரி. Either just switch. So first of all, thank you to Dr. Paul for enlightening us and pointing out our state of emergency. I think all of you know that the World Health Organization has said that 70% of all diseases that humans face are lifestyle related. So things like diabetes, heart disease, heart attack, stroke, we all daily நம்ம பார்க்குறோம் paperல somebody at the age of 45 getting a heart attack, someone at the age of 42 getting a heart attack. So a lot of, and diabetes of course எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும், it is rampant, but a lot of the diseases of old age, whether we talk about diabetes, heart disease, dementia, blood pressure, அதோட மூல காரணம், when does it start happening? At your ages, younger than you actually I would say, at ages of 20, 30, that is when the roots start being spread for all of these what are called non-communicable diseases. What is alarming about non-communicable diseases is 70% is preventable. All of you sitting here like this, all of you are at risk of developing may already have, I do not know, any one of these diseases. So prevent பண்ணதுக்கு one of the most important things is exercise, physical activity and maintaining our muscle mass. And like Dr. Ganesh said, this has to start at a young age. Dr. Paul shared data showing how the muscle mass starts coming down after the age of 30 or 40, which means at the age of 20 we need to have maximum muscle mass. It's like a bank balance. You need to have good amount of muscle, you need to have good amount of bones, you need to have good health as much as possible when you're 20, 25 years old, because after that sadly it is all downhill. How do we get to optimal muscle mass between the ages of 20 to 30? So, I mean, I'm only talking about muscle mass today, but everything else now, it has to reach a maximum at that age, between 20 to 30 years. One of the ways we improve our muscle mass is with exercise, physical activity. Okay? If you see a child, they keep running around all the time, they never sit still. Okay? As adults, we keep sitting still. I think you would have all heard this phrase, sitting is the new smoking. So sitting for about 1 hour is equivalent to smoking, I don't know what, like half a cigarette. Some numbers will come up, but sitting is bad. So we have to get up and keep moving around. That is very important for our muscles. We don't realize how weak we become. I will tell you one simple test you can do. How many times can you get up and sit down within 30 seconds? Very simple test. On a chair without holding a thing. How many times can you get up and sit down? People who are very weak, older people who are very weak, find that even getting up and sitting down minimum is 5 times in 30 seconds. People who are very old and who have muscle weakness, particularly weakness around the hip muscles, weakness around the back muscles, they are not able to get up and sit down. What is alarming is we find younger people, we are finding children who are weak. We are finding young people in the 20s and 30s who are weak like this with muscle weakness. So the way to build it up is first of all awareness, understanding that all of us suffer from muscle weakness, muscle loss, unless we are born with good muscles but we don't take care of it. Second, apart from awareness, is physical activity, exercise. Even simple exercises like sitting on the floor and getting up is good exercise for us. Climbing up the stairs, sitting on the floor, that is very good exercise. If you do that 10 times a day, I think all of you know, we do what is called this Topikarnam. Okay? Topikarnam bodradhu is very good exercise. You may not, I don't know if you know, we sort of hold our ears and we go all the way down and we get up. Okay? That's like a colloquial Tamil term that we use. But doing that 10 times a day is good exercise for your muscles. Number 3, like Dr. Paul said, our diet is very, very poor in protein. Where do vegetarians get proteins from? We get it from milk, we get it from dal, parupu. Those are the only 2 sources of protein. We don't eat much by way of dals, we don't drink much by way of milk or consume curd or buttermilk. We don't get enough protein. So we have to consider taking more protein in the diet, whether we do it through adding supplements like this. HMB is a very important supplement. There are several other supplements. HMB is one of the most important supplements to help building up protein. So this is to create awareness about it, but I think the more important message that needs to go out is that, I think as correctly said in the keyword here, muscle matters. So muscles are very important and we have to take time to understand and improve. Namurla, for example, men also suffer from fractures at a very young age. Part of the reason why they suffer from fractures is because of poor quality bones and muscles, which is because of poor protein intake. So make sure that first of all we need to create awareness, work on building up our muscle strength, and work to increase protein intake using supplements like this. I'll stop here and happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Thank you for all of you and for all that they have shared, and the importance of muscle, not only as we age but as a preventive measure as well, and what we can do. I'll open the floor for questions now. May I please request that you just raise your hand so that in case we have a mic can come to you. Please state your name and publication.
I'm from Chennai schools. See, you said Indians, 70% of Indians are...
Our father themselves have less protein. Then you're born and from a young age, relatively we are all consuming less protein and working out less. Diet plays an extraordinarily important role. So that is why, for example, people who can have eggs, I think you'll know in Tamil Nadu, in the new meal scheme, some areas they started giving an egg to improve the protein intake, because that is so important for us. We have very little protein intake in our diet, and one more thing we need to keep in mind is protein intake is not linked to just calorie deficit. People who have enough and more calories, so it has nothing to do with the with sort of the class, and people who are necessarily eating more do not have more protein intake. All they're having is more calories, more sugar, and more carbohydrate. Maybe more fat, but not more protein. So generally, as a rule, our protein intake, overall studies have clearly shown, is very poor starting from a young age.
In the sense, we mean to say that people who consume non-vegetarian diet will have access to more protein, and the converse is not true. That is obviously
So, that doesn't hold true in India again. Even though we say non-vegetarian in India, most people in India, when they say they eat non-vegetarian food, they're talking about having fish or chicken or mutton maybe once a week, and maybe eggs once a week or twice a week. That doesn't really count as non-vegetarian. So studies again have clearly shown that there isn't much difference in terms of protein intake whether you call yourself a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian. That is why this protein supplement is necessary even among vegetarians and non-vegetarians, at least in India.
This is Maludi Raja from Face News TV. So our grandfather takes same food, my father is taking same food, they are ill and healthy. Where we are lagging?
Yeah, I think perhaps our life is a little more busy and a little more stressful than perhaps our parents were. My parents are always marveling at me. They said, "Why are you staying so busy? Why do you always feel the need to be doing so much?" We spent more time at home. We rested more. We went outside and walked more. I think our parents and our generations before us, didn't work as many hours as we worked. They spent more time with their families, which I wish all of us did. And they were more active. They went outside more. There was more outside to go to. I think I've seen it here in India, and it's true in the U.S. Our cities are getting bigger and bigger, and there's less and less outside to go to. And so I think people were more active in generations past. One of the interesting things I learned in some of these studies they've done here in India, uniquely, going back thousands of years, is when India transitioned from a hunting and moving society to a farming society, they not only lost muscle mass, but the height of the average Indian shrunk by 8 centimeters over what looks like just a few hundred years. So over a very short period of time, a very few generations. So again, taking in the broader, healthier, more diverse protein-based diet helps with many things. It helps you fight off disease. It helps you feel better. It helps you defend against illnesses of all sorts. But it also helps us grow normally and our children to grow normally. And height and weight and strength are all part of that. And so it's interesting that we can look back over the years and see, like you just said, even changes from what you remember from your parents and how they feel to how perhaps we feel. And that's why I think changes like this are so important. And I think sadly medical schools, most physicians don't know about this. They don't teach patients this. Most medical schools don't teach nutrition and teach these things, so people don't realize it's so important.
I just wanted to add one thing. Your father and your grandfather probably would have had, certainly your grandfather I know, would have had sweets at Diwali time, maybe at Navaratri time. We did not have, whatever sweet shops to go to buy sweets all the time and to use it for things. So definitely our diet has changed. We have easy accessibility to very high calorie food. We are not working enough to get that food. And our food is changing every day. Today you may be having lunch here, tomorrow you'll be having lunch somewhere else. So now because we have Swiggy, we have Zomato, every day we are eating a different type of a meal. That also plays a very important role. Your grandfather would have had the same food. He would have had also relatively more carbohydrate, but he wouldn't have had that much of sweets, not processed foods, very much less processed foods. That is the reason why your grandfather stayed healthy. The homogeneity, we call it homogeneity in the diet. It doesn't change every day. That's also a very important part of maintaining our health, our gut health and our overall health.
Again, it's a question from Arivanandam from Navajivan Express. What's your suggestion for the government to improve muscle matters among the children from school age?
Thank you so much. Wonderful question. What is the suggestion to improve muscles strength in children? I have many suggestions. I'll start off with my wish list. Number one is the most radical, so I'll get it out of the way. Stop selling sugar in ration shops. Okay? I think sugar should become a luxury item. We don't need sugar to live. Sugar is a luxury item, so I don't think, anyway, that's the most radical. Second, every day 1 hour should be set aside in schools for physical activity. Unfortunately, there is only 1 hour every week, which is also taken over in the higher classes for studying for exams. 1 hour every day has to be set aside for physical activity, not just for students, but also for teachers. Everybody needs that physical activity. We don't emphasize it enough. Number 3, Tamil Nadu government has done a wonderful job of putting that noon meal scheme for nutrition. We should include more protein. I would like to take 2 minutes to share a small scheme we did in a small village near Tamil Nadu. We gave a protein-based drink to children, vegetarian. We didn't want to give eggs, so it was called the kanji scheme. So we'd taken children in the school and we gave them a kanji, we gave them a protein mix, so that included like millets, it included corn. So we came up with a mixture, and that kanji mix, at the end when the children were going home from school, they gave them 1 tumbler of that kanji mix to drink, just basically improving their protein intake. We did a study among these school children before we implemented the kanji mix, and one year later, and we were astonished. 1 year before we implemented this kanji mix scheme, 50% of the children were coming in with running noses, mook origida, they had skin sores. 1 year after, we saw 1 child with a skin sore and 1 child who had a thing out of about 200 kids. It was a small village school. Most amazing thing we found was the parents who came and told us, teachers who came and told us, the children had more energy to fight. There were more fights, but they had more energy to fight. Such a simple thing. All we did was we gave this kanji, 1 tumbler of kanji in addition to their noon meal scheme. We also had to get permission from the block development officer because we were doing it through the government schools. The scheme is still going on in small villages over there, but just to say that this supplementation of this little protein intake improved the children's lives so much. So improving protein, setting aside time for physical activity, I think are 2 very important things that can be implemented easily.
Will you take up this one to the government to expand all over Tamil Nadu?
I would love to. Maybe I will. Thank you.
Any other question?
I have a question. To Dr. Paul, how is the scenario as far as muscle matters is concerned globally? At least your part of the neighborhood. You can throw some light.
Repeat, please. Repeat it one more time, please. Say,
How's,
yeah.
as far as muscle matters, this aspect, this discussion, deliberation is concerned,
Yeah.
how is the scenario in your part of the world?
Right. Yeah, our rate of low muscle mass, especially in young people, is not as high as here in India. I think I'm most struck by how high it is here. But I would agree, it's an excellent question. Our young people are starting to show higher rates, like you're seeing in your young people. And so we too are using this same strategy of really beginning to teach people, even children, especially children, that muscles matter and that activity matters and that your dietary intake of less processed sugars. So I have many patients in the US, so we have a lot of obesity in the US, so as I go to show in India, they come to me and say, how can I lose weight? And I say, well, the best way to lose weight is eat a gram per pound of protein every day. Don't you think about that for a second. Eat a gram of protein per pound every day that you weigh. And eat gluten-free. Not because you're allergic to gluten, because it'll take away all the processed food. So you can't eat processed crackers and pastas and rices if you don't eat gluten, not because you have a problem with gluten. So that's the things I tell them. And so these are some of the ways we address. And I agree, we have to start with our kids. It was when I was a child that I learned this. I had a bad illness as a child, and I weighed 40 kilos at the same height I am now as a child. And I said, I don't want to be this person anymore. And so that's when I started exercising, started eating more protein, started reading about it, started taking HMB. I weigh 110 kilos now and have for most of my adult life.
But you look HB5.
Yes. Yeah, maybe it does that too, I don't know. But I learned, I decided as a young child, and with my parents' help, that I was going to be different. I was not going to be that sick kid, that kid who was real thin and was always at risk of getting illnesses like you described, because I got sick a lot as a kid too. And I think we could really change that, especially in the face of COVID and other things that are threatening all of us at any age. But it's a challenge for us too. Obesity and poor food intake is not unique to India. What I think is unique though is the muscle mass issue is truly unique. And I think all of you have the chance to really change the lives of all Indians by sharing this information, because it's not something we're taught in school. It's not something your doctors are going to teach you because they're not taught it. They don't know it. You have the information that can save lives and change lives right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Dr.
Vishwanath.
Jayashree?
Sorry?
So, do you want the people have to change their lifestyles right from eating food, sitting on the floor? So, previously we had that system. Now everybody is sitting on the dining table and taking their food. And also we are using Western type of toilets. Previously we used to take. So, that has to be changed, for this muscle matters, for improving muscles.
I think all that helps. So one of the things that I know, I'm sure you've seen the Indian toilets where people squat on the floor. So that's called an Indian toilet as compared to one with a commode, which is called a Western toilet. One of the things that is believed to have happened in India is when people have transitioned to the Western toilet is that there is higher prevalence of constipation. Because when you squat, there is increased. In fact, one of the things that gastroenterologists tell their patients is just to use a stool to get your legs up. Yeah. So something minor. So I think what is important is creating awareness, and that is where the media helps us. I think all of these measures help, but creating awareness so that all of us can institute these little measures in our day-to-day life, I think helps.
So I think next time when we will have a meeting like this, I will remove the chairs and everyone will be standing. No, actually, I'm not joking, because I have seen this culture, especially in Japan. Japan, most of the offices, they don't have chairs. There's an open or standing at the table, and you have to stand, and so that people are more active. As the JSD has rightly said, there are some guidelines which have actually come up, which recommends 180 minutes minimum of exercise. Weight for a child it will be 240 minutes or something like that. As she rightly said, these guidelines are available globally. We need to inculcate those guidelines in Indian scenario right from the childhood, so that it's definitely helpful to become active. Coming to this kanji, just 2 minutes. Coming to this kanji experiment is a wonderful experience, and which actually gives the evidence that proteins not only play a role in your muscles, but they also have an impact on your immunity and the skin integrity and many other functions. So when you are protein deficient, you provide the proteins, then the proteins in the muscles are preserved. Okay, so there is a less chance of losing the proteins from the muscle. So what is important is we have to focus on the nutrition. We have to have a good nutrition. We have to fill the breach the gap of protein deficiency with a good quality proteins, and also we should have an active lifestyle, and this kind of supplements, innovative products definitely will help to breach or build the muscles and preserve the muscles.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Please join.
We need, and using a supplement, an oral supplement like one with HMB, can really change what happens to you now and what happens to you in the future and make every day of your life better.
மசில் மாஸ்ங்கிறது நம்ம உடம்புல இருக்கிற தசை ஒவ்வொருத்தருக்கு எந்த அளவுக்கு அந்த தசை இருக்கிறதுங்கிறது ஆல் ஓவர் த வேர்ல்ட் உலகம் முழுவதும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்தியன்ஸுக்கு தான் ரொம்ப கம்மியாக இருக்குது. ஆல்மோஸ்ட் 70% ஆஃப் அஸ் 10லேருந்து 7 பேருக்கு வந்து அந்த மசில் மாஸுங்கிறது ரொம்ப குறைவாக இருக்குது. மசில் மாஸ் குறைவாக இருக்கிறதுக்கான காரணங்கள் வந்து சின்ன வயசுலேருந்து ஃபிசிக்கல் ஆக்டிவிட்டி, அந்த உடல் பயிற்சி ரொம்ப கம்மியாக இருக்கிறதுனால, நம்ம சாப்பாடில் வந்து புரோட்டீன் புரத சத்து ரொம்ப கம்மியாக எடுக்கிறதுனால, அதிகமான கார்போஹைட்ரேட் மாவு சத்து ரொம்ப அதிகமாக எடுக்கிறதுனால, சின்ன வயசுலேருந்து அந்த மாதிரி நம்ம சாப்பாடு இருக்கிறதுனால அந்த அளவுக்கு அந்த தசை டெவலப் ஆகிறதில்ல, அதனால வீக்னஸ் வருது. டாக்டர் பால் வந்து வேற என்ன சொன்னார்னா, அந்த தசை பில்டப் பண்ணிங்கன்னா நாட் ஓன்லி ஸ்ட்ரென்த், நல்ல ஃபீலிங் ஆஃப் வெல்பீயிங், நல்ல ஒரு ஹெல்த்தி லைஃப் வாடுறதுக்கு முக்கியம்னு மட்டும் இல்லை, ஆல்சோ இம்யூனிட்டி, நம்மளுக்கு அடிக்கடி வந்து இன்ஃபெக்ஷன் வராமல் இருக்கிறது, ஏதாவது உடம்புக்கு வந்ததுன்னா இந்த மாதிரி சர்ஜரி ஏதாவது நடக்கிறது, இல்லை ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஈவன் COVID-19 வந்துட்டு போனது, இல்லை கேன்சர் வந்துட்டு போகிறது, அந்த மாதிரி ஏதாவது மற்ற பிரச்சனைகள் வந்தாலுமே அதுலேருந்து ரெக்கவரி ப்ராசஸ் நல்ல அந்த மசில் மாஸ் நல்லா இருந்தால் தான் ரெக்கவரி ப்ராசஸ் ரொம்ப சீக்கிரமாக அதை வந்து குணமாக முடியும். இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பிரச்சனை வரதுனால வெறும் நம்ம சாப்பாடில் ஃபிசிக்கல் ஆக்டிவிட்டி ரொம்ப தேவை மசிலை பில்டப் பண்ணுறதுக்கு. பட் அதை தவிர இந்த மாதிரி சப்ளிமெண்ட்ஸ், இந்த HMBங்கிற ஒரு முக்கியமான சப்ளிமெண்ட். HMB வந்து மசில், ஸோ நம்ம எக்ஸசைஸ் பண்ணும்போது மசில் லாஸும் இருக்கும், மசில் வந்து பிரேக் டவுன், அந்த தசை வந்து உடஞ்சும் போகிறது, அதுக்கப்புறமா அது பில்டப் ஆகுது. ஆனால் அந்த பில்டப் ஆகிறதுக்கு நம்ம ப்ரோட்டீன் இல்லைன்னா பில்டப் ஆகாது. வெறும் எக்ஸசைஸ் பண்ணி நம்ம அந்த ப்ரோட்டீன் இன்டேக் இல்லைன்னா மசில் பிரேக் டவுன் ஆகுமே தவிர அது பில்டப் ஆகாது. அதுக்கு தான் வந்து இந்த மாதிரி சப்ளிமெண்ட்ஸ், HMB ஆன சப்ளிமெண்ட்ஸ் ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது, மசிலை பில்டப் பண்ணுறதுக்கு, மசில் ஸ்ட்ரென்த்தை மெயின்டைன் பண்ணுறதுக்கு. ஸோ மசில் மேட்டர்ஸுங்கிறது, தட் இஸ் அந்த தசை நம்ம உடம்புக்கு எவ்வளோ முக்கியம், நம்ம ஹெல்த்துக்கு எவ்வளோ முக்கியம்னு அது சம்மந்தப்பட்டது தான் இந்த மீட்டிங் நடக்குது.